Hi, and welcome to episode 5 of our mini-series, How is Bowel Cancer Screened and Diagnosed? Bowel cancer can begin without noticeable symptoms, as we have discussed before, and this is why screening is so important, especially if you are age 50 and over, because as we know, it is more common to develop bowel cancer once you get older, but it is not uncommon also to develop when you're younger, so please watch out for symptoms, which we discussed in the previous episode. Screening involves testing people who do not have obvious symptoms of bowel cancer. So
we can figure out what's wrong with you by looking at your poo.
We have discussed the acronym BOWEL previously, but some people can develop bowel cancer even though they may not have any symptoms, as we have talked about. Simple screening tests look for particular changes and early signs of cancer before it has developed into a tumour or an advanced polyp, and before any obvious symptoms can emerge, such as blood in your stool.
Do you have a hemorrhoid or is it rectal cancer?
Here in Australia, the National Bowel Cancer Screening Program aims to reduce deaths by searching for bowel cancer by detecting the early signs of disease. Here in Australia, if you are aged 50 or over, every 2 years, unless you opt out, you will automatically receive a bowel testing kit to use at home, which is basically a complete kit to see if there is any blood in your stool.
All across the nation, we trust in defecation.
So it will arrive to you in an envelope that looks like this. It'll come to your home address or to your post office box, whatever address you have registered through your Medicare system. And in this envelope, you'll have the testing kit in an envelope that will look similar to this. It'll contain all the different accessories and everything that you will need. There's 2 little test tubes that you'll scrape your stool sample into. You've got some bags here, toilet liners, and a replied paid envelope to send back to the pathology lab, where you can send your samples into.
Flush your dookie down, you flush away the answer.
So it doesn't cost you anything to do this. It is a completely free program that is funded by the federal government. And there's also an information booklet along with that to explain how the whole process works, as well as how to use the kit and what happens after you've sent it through. There's also a little checklist, so you can make sure you've done everything correctly. And there's also obviously a form where you fill out your information to ensure that the sample is registered under your name, but also so that the correct results come back to you. Whether it's a positive or negative result, it'll come back to you, and you take it from there.
We just need a stool sample.
Stand up, don't fall. So the way the kit works is basically you take 2 different stool samples. So you might go in the morning, you might go at night, you might go once a day, but you want to take 2 samples from separate sittings to then send back to the government via the Australia Post. When you collect the sample, basically get a little stick here. I won't open it because you need to use it, not me. But you basically get the little stick that's inside that tube. You scrape it along your stool as if you're running a knife through Nutella, but with no excitement.
Everything comes down to poo.
And then you put it back into the tube, give it a good shake to mix everything around, and then store it in a cool place until you take the next sitting. And then you do the exact same process, put it into the Ziploc bag, into the replied paid envelope, and send it on its way. So you only need a tiny sample when you do it, so you don't have to go digging in like a bowl of ice cream. Just get that little scraping, about a grain of rice, and then that's pretty much all they need to see what's going on inside you. And as I said, you repeat that process twice, fill out the form, send it back, and away you go.
It doesn't really matter if it's hard or if it's loose. We'll figure out what's ailing you.
make sure you go through your checklist because they have updated it recently. Yeah, and it's very important too here in Australia, from the age of 45 to 49, it is now an opt-in program. So if you have a family history or any particular reason where you think you might need to be tested, you can go onto the MyGov website, go through Medicare, register for that, and they will send you out a kit to do your at-home test. And the good thing is, once you do register for that, every 2 years you will be receiving a kit, unless you choose to opt out as well.
Everything comes down to poo.
If you want to know what's wrong, don't sit and act so cool. Just be a man and eat some bread and drop the kids off at the pool.
And make sure you seal everything properly, because you don't want anything leaking around. And obviously you want to make sure that they get a good sample to make sure they can test you as well. And make sure you send it within 24 hours of the second sample, because as time goes on, because it's an organic product, it will start to degrade. So you want to make sure that is as fresh as possible for that. You can take it to either Australia Post or into the street letterboxes. Obviously on a hot day, wait until it's a bit cooler. You know, you don't want things starting to fester.
My name is Fester. It means to rot.
It's not very fun. So the important thing to understand is a negative result from this sample means that no blood has been detected in your stool sample. So that's obviously a good thing. However, it does not guarantee that cancer is not present in your bowel. As we've discussed before, you know, you might have all the other symptoms except for bleeding. This kit is specifically designed to look for blood. A positive result means that there is blood in your stool, so it has been detected, but that does not necessarily mean that you have bowel cancer. Again, you might have the blood, none of the other symptoms, and it's not cancer. It might just be you know, another type of bowel condition. We have discussed it previously. Irritable bowel disease, Crohn's, colitis.
My stomach hurts.
Check the poo.
You might have a small polyp that hasn't become cancerous, but polyps can shed blood in the stool as well. So it is important to be aware of that. But because there is blood in your stool, it has to be investigated by a medical professional. So once you get that positive result, contact your GP, make an appointment to see them, and they will obviously have a conversation with you depending on what your health condition is, and they will most likely, and hopefully they do, refer you to a specialist who will then be able to conduct further tests and analysis to see what's happening.
Check the poo.
Another sign of bowel cancer that we haven't discussed previously is a blockage of the bowel. So you may not have any symptoms whatsoever. You may simply have a blockage. And what will happen there is that there will be a scan, whether it's an ultrasound, a CT, or an MRI. And those scans will usually identify what is causing the blockage. Also, more importantly, identify what part of the bowel the blockage is in, so that when you do speak to your doctor who has referred you to a specialist, they then know where to look when they perform a colonoscopy, which we'll get into in a moment.
It may sound gross, you may say shush, but we need to see what comes out of your tush.
And normally, if there is a blockage that can't be resolved through medication, there will be surgery involved, whether that is part of the colonoscopy, where it's an easy blockage that can be dislodged, or there may be a scheduled surgery or an emergency surgery, depending on the situation, where they will have to cut you open to obviously address what's going on. Hopefully they can remove just the blockage. Sometimes they may need to remove a section off your bowel as well, so just be aware that that could happen as well. If you think you have a family history of bowel cancer, or you know that you have a genetic mutation, it is important that you talk to your doctor, because obviously if you're doing this kit, you've got a reason to be concerned, so you should be consulting with your medical professional anyway.
Because types of the flu. Please won't you pinch us off a big fat clue?
And that way we can talk about the risk factors and everything else that we have talked about in a couple of episodes ago. People from families with bowel cancer need extra testing to find bowel cancer early. So as I have mentioned many times, I have a very strong family history of bowel cancer. I don't have the gene for it. Mine was a spontaneous mutation, but as I have said before, my uncle has had bowel cancer, my grandfather had bowel cancer, and all of his siblings as well. So quite an extensive group of family members who have had bowel cancer.
Our number one test is your number two.
If there's no breeze, light a match, please. Everything comes down to doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. Everything comes down to poo.
Yeah, and the most important thing as part of that screening process is a colonoscopy.
You're getting a colonoscopy.
Oh, that's wonderful! Pardon me for a moment. Colonoscopy is an endoscopic examination of the large... Oh, I don't understand!
They stick a camera up your uh-oh, but this time you won't be doing it to win a bar bet.
That bar bet paid for the camera removal.
You know, my parents have had colonoscopies for quite a long period of time. They are over the age of 50, obviously. But because of the family history, Dad especially has had lots and lots and lots of colonoscopies. Like, I've lived my entire life, every 2 years, Dad has had a colonoscopy every 2 years. I am now 40 years old. That is 20 colonoscopies that he's had. And Mum's had to also have colonoscopies when she turned 50. But also myself and my brothers have also had colonoscopies as well. Especially because I was diagnosed at the age of 37, which is much younger than the age of 50. It is important to keep my brothers safe. So they'll be doing it every 2 years pretty much forever to ensure that they are also safe. A colonoscopy is a detailed examination which looks at the lining of your large bowel.
Early detection can lead to complete removal of tumorous polyps and...
So as we've talked about before, the polyp or tumour grows within the lining of your bowel and then progresses from there. You do want to catch it as early as possible because the smaller it is, the easier it is for surgical intervention and medication and radiation and chemotherapy and everything else that will go in the next couple more episodes. During the colonoscopy, if the surgeon sees anything that needs to be investigated, they get the camera, they get the light, they get the little snipper thing, they'll go in and they'll investigate every single section of your bowel to ensure that you are safe. If they see something, they will cut it out, so that's a biopsy. If it's something small, or if they're able to remove it completely, they will just go in, cauterize it, remove it completely, so it cannot grow any further to what it is. As I mentioned in the first episode, when I had my very first colonoscopy, I had 2 reasonably sized polyps, but there was also a tumour, 61mm tumour inside that could not be removed during the colonoscopy, which is when I got referred to a colorectal surgeon specialist who then did further work that we've talked about as well. Polyps, samples and everything else. It is vital that you properly prepare for your colonoscopy. There are several different ways to prepare for a colonoscopy. There are solutions that you can drink, and that basically empties everything out.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
So your bowel will be as clean and clear as possible so that when your surgeon goes in with that camera, they can see everything that they need to see.
According to this, he has 3 active polyps.
Make sure you follow the directions from your doctor. Each of the different types of preparation works slightly differently. For me, I've had 3 colonoscopies during this whole cancer journey, and I had a different preparation process for each one. There is a drink called Pico Prep, there is another one called Glyco Prep, and then there's another one called Plenvu. I've had those 3. There are other brands out there, but they're the 3 that I have had. They all taste disgusting, but they have a very important job to do. And if you do not prepare properly, then you might have feces throughout your bowel that can block or cover polyps.
I hate manure.
It's very important that the doctor is able to see those polyps because, you know, obviously the surgeon needs to be able to cut out those polyps or anything else that might be hiding, you know, to avoid any further complications in the future.
Now comes the fun part.
You cut them out?
Oh, we don't use that term. We prefer rip.
Because remember, polyps can grow and turn into cancerous tumours, and that's when things become quite difficult. Being diagnosed with any type of cancer is a devastating experience to go through. I personally feel very sorry for the doctors who have to tell their patients of a cancer diagnosis. You know, even though I knew that there was something wrong with me when I went to my doctor, you know, when I was diagnosed back in May of 2022, it still came as a huge shock to hear the words, "You have cancer."
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Okay, and it was a shock not only to myself, but to my family and my friends as well. You know, I was sick for quite a long time. You know, I was stupid. I ignored a lot of the symptoms. You know, I had all, you know, the acronym symptoms plus other symptoms as well. But, you know, I kind of ignored what was happening because I had to do other things. And that was pretty stupid because, you know, it nearly cost me my life. And it's not good.
I sense much fear in you.
Okay. Bowel cancer can be diagnosed after you visit your doctor with symptoms, or if a screening test, such as the screening test that we use here in Australia, shows that you may have bowel cancer. There are a number of tests to investigate your symptoms and to confirm a diagnosis. Okay, so just because you do your kit and you see blood in the stool as a positive result when you get the report back, it doesn't mean that you have cancer. There has to be a whole diagnosis process for that, which your medical team will take you through. So there'll be a physical examination. So, you know, your doctor, like we've talked about in the previous episodes, you know, they should be examining your abdominal area. You know, they're going to do the test to look for blood in your stools. A lot of doctors will do separate tests as well to confirm results. So even though, you know, you come to them with a report to say that you've done the kit, they may still want to run their own tests as well, which is the responsible thing to do, just to double check what might be happening. They'll run blood tests, so they'll take some samples off your blood to check for anemia, which is a low hemoglobin level, which will lead you to feel tired and weak. So that was something that was happening to me. They'll check your liver function, because bowel cancer doesn't always, but it can spread to the liver because they are quite close to each other. And to also check for different tumour markers, which are substances that are produced by bowel cancer cells, and that is called your CEA levels. You want that to be as low as possible, so the closer to zero it is, the better. You know, mine has gone up from time to time, and then it just comes back down by itself. But you know, when I was diagnosed, it was quite elevated. The doctor may conduct an internal examination of your rectum, your anus and your colon. This may include a sigmoidoscopy. So they basically get a camera on a hose, and they'll check the first, you know, section of your bowel. Otherwise, a colonoscopy does the whole thing of the large bowel. So you can't get a camera unless you swallow one of those special tablet cameras that they're working on. You can't check inside the small bowel, but you can check the entirety of the large bowel through a colonoscopy. So it is quite important. You know, with the colonoscopy, it's a small tube, basically a hose, and the doctor will have a light, a camera, and the snippers, as I mentioned. They will go in through your bottom, so the doctor can go through the entire of your large colon.
We'll need to have a look inside you with this camera. Guess again.
So they go in, check it around, see what's going on, and if they've got to cut something out or take a biopsy, that is what they'll do. Imaging of the bowel, so as I mentioned, CT scan, MRI, ultrasounds. Sometimes you'll do an X-ray as well, depending on the situation, but definitely CT, ultrasound, and MRI are the more common. I do MRIs every 6 months, and CT as well, just to get double imaging to see what's happening. But at the beginning of the process, I had x-rays, CT, MRI, ultrasounds. I was drinking fluids left, right and centre to clear me out, just so they could get the best imaging possible. Because if you go and have your scan with a full bowel, that can obstruct the imaging from being done correctly. So it's very important that you do have an empty bowel. Sometimes, depending on the situation, you might do a PET scan, and that's when they inject you with a radioactive solution, and basically that will help to highlight any cancer that could be in the body. A PET scan is a full body scan. My mum has breast cancer. I'm her full-time carer. I've been doing that for nearly 10 years. And mum has a PET scan every 2 years. So that lights up the entire body, shows up anything that could be potentially a risk. So mum has had multiple surgeries for that. But same thing for bowel cancer. You might have a horseshoe shape light up depending on what's going on. So it is important that you talk to your doctor and get the right advice for that. And the good thing is it's not looking just at your bowel. As I said, it's the whole body. So if that bowel cancer has spread, it will light up everywhere. So they might do a biopsy via that colonoscopy, which will be then sent off to pathology for further testing. So please, it is very important that if you think you have a reason to be screened, register if you're here in Australia for that free scanning, the free kits. It will make a difference. It could save your life. Okay. As I mentioned in previous episodes, I was diagnosed with stage 3 bowel cancer, so it was quite advanced. Luckily, it did not spread. Okay, but I did ignore it for a long time, which is why it went to stage 3. You do the screening, try and catch it early, so it is as small as possible, so you have the least chance of complications. Okay, please join me in next episode where we discuss the cancer staging and patient prognosis. And also I'll include a link to the National Bowel Screening Program for anyone here in Australia who may not be registered for that, so that way you can obviously get access to that if you need to. Please like this video, subscribe, there's a bell thing I talk about all the time. Leave me some comments and feedback if you have any questions. I'll do my best to try and answer them. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Please share this with your family, your friends, your carer. If anything I've talked about raises a question, talk to a medical professional. I am not a doctor. Please talk to a professional. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Have a good day.